This video was made possible by you. If you want to save time and support what I do, check the link in the description that will take you to my store where you can purchase the source file for what we're creating in this video, as well as other tutorials on my channel. Thank you for your support, and let's get back to the video. Look at how satisfying this icon animation is. Now imagine how cool this is going to look when this whole animation is actually going to happen all on its own without me having to click it. So definitely make sure to stay until the end of the video where we finalize this animated button micro interaction for our mobile app design system. And as usual, the source file for this project is linked in the description below, and you're getting not only this finished project, but also all the other stuff that we have been creating over the course of the mobile app design series. So let's waste no more time and let's get started on finalizing this super exciting project that I think is going to look even cooler than this. All right, some of you may remember this project where we built this add to cart button. As you can see, we're using the same logic. So far, I have built just the icon states, but now we're going to have to create the actual button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an instance of the button, right? I'm just going to click Option and then click and drag on the button component. I can, by the way, also go to Assets and then search for a button and then just drop it on the page. I'm actually gonna have to detach this button, detach this component, because we're gonna make some changes within the structure, and that's not possible if we keep the component intact. So I'm just gonna do Command Option B, which is gonna detach the component, and I'm gonna remove these icons, and then I'm gonna just rename this button to Send Button Micro Interaction, okay? Or something like that. The name is not that important. We just have to differentiate it from the regular button. All right, so what needs to happen now is I'm gonna create an instance of this component, of this animated icon. I'm gonna press again Option and then click and drag, or I can again go to my assets and then drop the send animated icon onto my page. I'm just gonna then drag it inside of the button, right? Or I think I'm gonna have to do Command X with the icon selected, select the button and then Command V, all right? This is going to create some kind of unwanted margins. So I'm just gonna remove all of those. I'm gonna go for 0 on the vertical ones. And then in terms of the horizontal padding, I'm gonna just disable or actually do a bit less on the right padding, because this icon is pretty huge and that's expanding our overall button. And I'm gonna then edit this text. I'm gonna make it say send. And as you can see, because it's an auto layout, the layout is moving automatically. You all know that. You're probably already familiar with auto layout. Let's go for a different spacing. I think I'm gonna go for 16. And I think we also need a bit more on the paddings, actually. 32 from the left side, maybe 24 from the right one. I think this works better, to be honest. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to turn this into a component, click this button, and then I'm going to create a variant. We of course need a variant. And now that we have multiple variants, we're going to have to change the name to, just so we understand what's going on, we're going to change the name of the property to state with the whole component selected, right? And then we're going to have to rename these states, and I'm going to go for default. I'm going to keep default actually. And then if we refer to our kind of a wireframe that we have here, the next state is going to have to be letter is up. Okay, so let's do letter is up. Letter is up. Okay. And of course, this needs to be reflected in the state of the icon. So I'm going to select the icon within the button, the send button component, and I'm going to change the state to letter is up to actually match what we have here. So now you can see that there's a problem. The problem is called clip content. So if we disable that, you can see that we get, the letter suddenly becomes visible. So it's going to the contents of the frame can go beyond the frame. All right, I'm going to also disable clip content on the first variant. I think we need a bit more space between these variants. Let's go for 40 maybe. Let's also expand the height. And I think I'm not gonna go for a shadow. I think I'm gonna keep this button shadow less. We will see if that actually looks good, but for now, let's keep it shadowless. Now, if you notice, if you're very attentive, you can notice that there is some kind of an artifact. Why is this happening? This is because we have a background set up on this icon. So instead of having the background set up on the actual icons, I'm gonna set it up for the whole component, and I'm gonna go for like dark gray, something like this. And then I'm just gonna select all these variants and go just remove the fill. You can see that what's gonna happen now is the artifact is gone, and that's exactly what we need. Next up would be finalizing all these states. So I'm gonna just create an additional variant. I'm gonna call this variant letter inside envelope, right? Letter inside envelope. And I'm gonna also have to reflect that in the icon state. So let's go for letter is inside the envelope, okay? Then another state, and this one's gonna be called envelope is closed. Envelope is closed. And of course the envelope, again, has to be closed. Perfect, so we have all these states set up, but now a couple of things need to happen. We have set up an interaction on this icon, right? When we click on these icons, they're going to be changing states. That was just for me to test what the animation is going to look like, right? But we have to disable it now because it could clash with this interaction that we're going to be setting on the button as a whole. So I'm just going to go here and I'm just going to remove all these interactions that we have on these icon variants, okay? These interactions cannot be there. Awesome. Now, of course, what happens now is if I click here on this envelope, nothing happens because we simply disabled it. But don't worry, we're going to set this animation here on the main component level. Okay. Now, here's the thing. If you take a look again at this scheme, at this wireframe that we have here, you can see that from the state of envelope is closed, which is this one, we're going to be moving into this state. Okay. But how do we actually achieve this? We have to create one additional state. So I'm going to select the last one and create a new state. This state is going to be called action is confirmed. Okay. And we basically want the envelope to fly out, to move somewhere around here and be animated essentially. But we want to also put an icon in place instead of that. So I'm just going to duplicate what I have here, or better yet, I think I'm going to just show you how this is done. So I'm going to use my pen tool, click once, then hold down my shift key to get a 45-degree angle, click again, and then let's click again. It doesn't have to be 100% precise, but I'm going to then press enter, and I'm going to select the color that we have here. You can see the hex code is this one, 30F0B6. I like this green color. So let's go for round and also join round joins, right? So that's how we create this. And then let's go for Command Option G with this selected, Command Option G. And let's change the size of this to 32 by 32, the size of this frame, 32 by 32. Okay, let's center it by selecting the check mark and do Option H and Option V, and let's name this like action confirmed or something. Okay, so that's exactly what we have here basically. Just maybe move it 1 pixel up. Yep, that's exactly what we have here. It's simple to create. And now what I think needs to happen actually is we need this state to not have auto layout. So let me just remove the auto layout so we can move with these elements freely within that element, right? For when we have auto layout, we cannot really do that because it's arranged automatically. But when we disable auto layout, we can move with these things freely, which is exactly what we need. I am going to then select this action confirmed. Let me rename this to check mark. I'm going to do Command X on this whole frame and just paste it in, right? Select this and Command V. Now, here's the thing. I will then select the animated icon and I'm going to move it using Shift and my right arrow. I'm going to move it outside of the button. Okay, so the email is sent. However, if you take a look at this, is not what the variant should look like, right? We need to clip content. And I think we also need to clip content here so that when it actually is flying out, we get it bounded by the button. So with that outside of the frame, let me move this icon probably 8 points from the text, or maybe even less, 4. And then with both of these selected, let me just use my arrow and then let's center them. Now, when we center them, we cannot take just the empty bounding box into consideration. We have to select this element and this element by pressing Command and Shift clicking, and then just see what's the distance from the edges. So we can see that we have 47 from the left and 52 from the right, which means we need to move this like 2.5, 2 pixels maybe to the right to get it truly optically centered. So let me again select this variant, enter, and then deselect, Command click the icon, and then 1, 2. I think this should be pretty centered, okay? We also need to change the send to sent, right? And now I realize that it's actually gonna increase the spacing because T is a bit narrower than D. So I'm gonna again move this 4 pixels to the left and then select it again and 2 to the right so that it's truly centered, right? And the next thing I'm gonna do is select the fill and then go add fill over here and create another fill layer. This is going to have the same color as the check mark. However, this is not what we're going for. No, we're going to go for a gradient, and this gradient is going to be radial, and we need to flip the gradient points and then grab this little circle over here and do Shift, hold Shift and just drag it so that we get a nice even radial gradient. I'm going to then move the origin point to somewhere around here. And then this end of the gradient is going to be probably like, I don't know, here maybe, to get something like this. And we just need to reduce the opacity from 0 to about, I don't know, 40 or 50. I think that looks pretty good. I think that's okay. And yeah, now what remains now is to finalize the actual interaction. So let me duplicate this state. I have it selected and then Option and click and drag. And this is going to be a hover state. Okay. And this hover state, let's take what we have here as an inspiration. We have 474747 as the hover color. So let's paste it in here. Okay. It's a hover. And now let me just, I think we could structure it in the same way that we have the add to cart button. So let's just put it right here to have consistency. Okay. And so now let's start setting up the interaction. Okay. So let me go to prototype. With this selected, let me go to prototype and let's connect this state to this one. And let me do while hovering, change to hover, smart animate, ease out 300 milliseconds. Then let me select this button, this variant, connect that to this one, and let's do on tap, change to letter is up. And I think in this case, we're gonna make it actually also smart animate, but really fast, let's say 60 milliseconds, okay? And then from here, let me connect that to another variant, and we're gonna do now after delay 0, change to letter inside envelope, smart animate, ease out, and this is gonna be like 300 milliseconds, right? So this animation is going to happen automatically because it's after delay. So as soon as we are in this state, after 1 millisecond, we start transitioning and we start animating into this state. Let me do something similar here. After delay, 0, smart animate ease out to envelope is closed. And finally, we're going to do some delay here. We're going to do 800 milliseconds, actually, probably. Change to action is confirmed. Smart animate ease out 300 milliseconds. And then the final animation is going to be the last state connected again to the first one. And it's going to be after delay, but probably like 1200 milliseconds. Actually, sorry, I take that back because when it's sent, it's actually done and we can't send the email again. So let's just remove that. And this is going to be the whole thing. And what we need to do also is select this text and keep the name similar to this one or like identical to this one, because Figma then doesn't know that it should be animated. So let's change the name to actually still send. Even though it says sent, right? We still have to keep the name identical. And also let me select this icon, copy and paste it here. Okay. Let's actually do absolute position on this one, or better yet, let me undo a few steps. Let's disable the auto layout here. Also copy again and paste it in here. And this time I'm gonna put the icon somewhere around here so that we get the icon movement as well as the icon fade in. And I'm gonna do 0 on the opacity on the icon, on the checkmark icon. And let me do also a few adjustments. Let's go again to prototype. And I think I'm gonna remove this delay actually. Let me go to 0, right? And on the hover, I think I want to do, instead of 300, I want to do 100, right? To be a bit faster. And now we can actually test our prototype. So what I'm going to do is again, use an instance of this button. So when I go to assets, send button micro interaction, drop it here, do Command X, go in on the new test page 2, Command V, Command left bracket to move it somewhere around here. And now let's test this out. Let's test this out. New test page 2, and then hover. We have a hover, click, and we get a super satisfying result. So let me just add one more interaction here. That's going to basically ensure that we can click on this and go back to the initial version. So on tab, change to default, dissolve, right? Very fast. And also I'm going to slow down the hover. I'm going to make it 150. Let's try again. Click again. Okay, so we have this nice animation. And now when I click it, we get this nice interaction. I think we could work on the pacing of the animation because it looks unnatural. So let me just make this 50% bigger so we can see it better. We have to reset the prototype, maybe even reload it because you can see it broke the icon. It's already fixed. Never mind. I'm going to reload it again. When the animation starts happening, what I think we need to do is actually add some delays in the interaction. But we're going to add the delays identical everywhere. One delay is going to happen here, and the delay is going to be like, let's say 200 milliseconds. And then the other two is going to be, that's going to be here, 200 milliseconds as well after delay. And then after delay, finally here as well. Let's see if that changes the overall feel of this interaction. Let me click it. Yes, this is definitely better, right? So this looks way more natural. We have some pauses so that the user can process what just happened. And yeah, this is the final result. I can hover, I get a hover interaction, I can send, I can pack my letter and then can then send it to the recipient. All right. So I think this is super satisfying. I'm really happy with how this turned out. Let me know in the comments below if seeing this interaction in an email app or in a message app would make you happy to see it. So my theory is, and it's not my theory, it's pretty well known, is that if you see something elaborate and like delightful and playful like this, it's gonna change how you feel about the overall interaction, which in turn is gonna change how you feel about the whole app and about the whole company that, you know, that is developing this app, which then of course is gonna affect, it's all about the money, it's gonna then affect the bottom line. So that's actually why companies invest in good design. It's all about emotional appeal. So that's something you can do with this interaction. That is something that I think is going to be very effective when building a message or an email app. And of course, you can download this interaction. You can download the source file for this. Again, as I said, you're not only getting this project, but also all of this. So definitely go check it out. I also have, for example, interactions like this. We have the add to cart button. We have the drop down that is hidden now, but never mind. We have plenty of stuff, plenty of animated elements. So definitely also go and check out the playlist linked below, the mobile app design series, right? So yeah, thanks for watching. I really enjoyed working on this project. I think it turned out beautifully. I'm really happy about this. I'm excited to share this with you. If you found this useful, I would appreciate you leaving a like on this video. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and I will see you in the next one.